Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jacob. I just kind of wanted to explain what we were doing on this job. So what we're doing right now is we are using some metal 2x studs instead of lumber because the customer already had them, and that's what the rest of the shop was used to frame out. Saved them a few $100s using what they had compared to using wood studs or 2x because of how expensive they are right now. And as you can see on the bottom, they sit really nicely inside those rails, bottom and top. And we use ramset nails or a ramset gun to nail those into the concrete. As you can see here, we are going past the window, but we're keeping our 16-inch centers all the way down. We measured out to make sure we still had 16-inch. That way, whenever we frame out right here around the window, um, we're gonna have a smaller width right there, but when we go on top of the window, we still have a 16-inch center. So everything 16-inch center here, um, the way it should be. We could have gone a little bit wider, like 24-inch, but we wanted to make sure this was done right and looked right, so we just went ahead and did 16-inch centers. On this one, we had to screw into this I-beam, and that really sucked, but we got it, so no problem. Um, right now, we're framing out the door that is gonna, section off the storage room. This whole room used to be a storage room, but they're moving the woman who works up front. They're moving her office in here, so she's getting her a nice new office. But we wanted to make sure that it was closed off completely from the storage room, so that's what we're doing right here. And if you're wondering, at the top we're using a 2x, and then we're putting a half-inch piece of plywood in the middle of it, and then another 2x screwed together. One, it's good for support, but two, it gives you the width that we need. All right, so we got all the sheetrock on. Got all the mud work done this morning. Just got it, just finished sanding it. Sorry I didn't record any of that, but it's kind of boring. But we're doing a drop ceiling here. Gonna texture all this today, doing knockdown texture. Gonna do tile through this whole room. Gonna put a door here. I think they're gonna run some HVAC through there somewhere in here. We're not doing anything on this side. We're just gonna leave the mud work and call that good. They don't want to do anything. It's just a little storage room. But overall, it's come out really good. Alright, so here we are shooting the texture. If you don't know what that is, that's a hopper gun that I'm using in my hand right there. We have the air pressure set up to about 90 psi, I believe. I don't remember the size tip I use. I would have to go look. But they have different sizes of tips to shoot bigger or smaller spatter, I guess you could say. Typically, we close off any door frames. We'll mask off and use some plastic or something. But here recently, we've just been kind of doing this here, with some cardboard on the other side. One thing I want to, remind everybody to think about is if you're doing texture, be very mindful of your air hose, because it's super easy to drag your air hose right on your wall where you just shot your texture. I've done it before, and it kind of sucks because you can get a point where things don't blend in. So it's much better to just always try to be mindful of everything around you, any buckets, trash, whatever it may be. And as you see here, I do a lot of welding, and right here, I kind of do the same motion. I go kind of in circles, or sometimes I do half moons, and sometimes I just kind of rock back and forth. But I do almost the same motion as I do welding, and it gets a really nice coverage of the mud, and makes it really blend well. Now another thing that we do is we don't spray every wall first. It's me and my father who do this, and typically we have one person do one thing and I do the other. And as you can see, he's getting that. It's it's been called like a magic trowel, a knockdown tool, squeegee. It's a squeegee, but you want to let this texture set up for a good 10 minutes or so. Let it kind of dry up, harden up. There's a lot of humidity in the air when you start doing this, so sometimes it takes a while, but I really recommend getting that squeegee. They sell them in I think a 12-inch and a 24-inch. I think that's, or 18-inch. I don't remember what size that is. 20 something inch. But they sell them in a couple different sizes, and I would 100% recommend that because it doesn't put as much pressure as the metal trowels do. It doesn't dig in like they do. It just kind of glides over, gets you a really nice finish. So that's why I don't get too far ahead of him, because if I were to keep going all the way around, that texture would just start drying up before he could even get to it. So I do 2 walls, and then I'll stand around and wait till he gets everything knocked down, and then if we're both ready, we'll move to the other wall and start doing the knockdown on that one, or shooting the texture and then letting him start doing the knockdown on that. Alright, so now that I've got this sped up quite a bit, still trying to figure that out. I'm not the best at video editing. Something I wanted to point out was, if you look on the ground, we use a bunch of cardboard. We don't typically do that when we're doing texture. We will always mask off the whole floor. We'll tape it off. We'll use some pretty thick plastic so it doesn't rip. But on this job, since it's a bare concrete and we are doing tile anyways, we just use this cardboard. We always have a bunch of cardboard for painting and whatnot, so that's why we did that. It'll be easy to clean up. So
You good on that? You actually done do all your mud work. I was telling your mom last night, I said, Dave, Jacob, he'll be mud man for you know it. See, you know how to do this, and if you're doing a remodel, you don't have to hire somebody to come in and do this.
no,
What Bill was saying one time, man, you can just do it all.
do it all. That's what I tell my clients. I mean,
Whatever you need.
you have to in order to survive.
Yeah. I didn't realize you were videoing.
It's alright. Hey guys, another thing I wanted to say real quick was something you really need to keep in mind is you need to keep a wet sponge with you. And as you're knocking down this texture with that squeegee, I would say maybe every 3 strokes, I would clean your squeegee off, because if not, you're going to be dragging trash through it and make a mess.
If I missed anything, we hit it with some light sandpaper. And on a sanding pole or something.
Yeah.
To knock it down. But I don't think I missed anything. Shit, 15, we did great. I started not to bring this fan today, but actually I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did.
It worked out good.
so we got all the walls painted. Texture looks awesome. Now we're hanging the drop ceiling. Already got all these rails on the wall. Now we're gonna start hanging these
Main tees.
All right, so what I'm doing here is I am measuring out 4 foot because the ceiling tiles we're using are 4x2. So I'm measuring out 4 foot out, and then I'm using what they call J hooks, and they hook on to the end of C purlin or even Z purlin. You don't see a lot of Z purlin around here, but you know they do have it. So we set we set the main T on to the railing, and then we set those J hooks above the main T. Every I don't remember how, I think we went every 4 foot for the main T. Is where we set those J hooks above it, and then we use some thick gauge tie wire to tie it to connect it all. And yes, we go back and tie everything up really well. Another thing we do is on all the, not all of them, but majority where the main T's hook into the framing around on the walls, we notch those, or we hole punch those out, and then we use rivets, white rivets, to hold everything in place. And then every couple of our 2 foot pieces, we rivet some of those along the wall as well to the main frame that's on the drywall. Now, we probably could have taken a little time to measure this out, so we could have like some, the same size pieces all the way around on the edges, but it's unnecessary for something like this. I mean, it's a lot of added and wasted time when it's still just fine doing it this way. So I wouldn't recommend spending a lot of time trying to make everything the same exact measurement all the way around. It's really hard when you don't have a room that measures out perfectly with a 4x2 ceiling tile. Alright, so right here we're starting to put the ceiling tiles in. They're really easy to put in. I mean, you just take them up in there at an angle and you drop them in. Sometimes you'll hit the tie wires on the J hooks, but just kind of move those out of the way, and really they should just drop right in. I mean, this is really hard to mess up. I mean, everything just, it's like plug and play. It kind of just works perfectly together. So.
But you got that tied in, Let me see if everything's tied in. Yeah, you look at all of them over here, good. That makes it a little nicer.
So there's going to be a vent here, probably a light here, and another light here. So we're leaving all that open so they can take care of the electrical. Alright guys, so if you're wondering why there's some tiles on the ground already, it's because I dry set them, because the first few tiles are crucial to get perfect. So over on the left I have a laser, I don't know if it's a laser level. I don't know. I bought it on Facebook Marketplace. I don't really like it very much, but it's nice when you get it set up right. So I set that up right down the middle to line up with the tile that's in the other office. And then I just started dry setting my tiles so I can get my first couple cuts correct right around that door frame. And then after that, I didn't need the tile or the laser anymore, because I mean, I'm pretty good at doing tile, so I can kind of follow and make sure everything stays square and stays straight. So and then what we're using here is we are using some thin set. If you've never done tile, we're using thin set from Lowe's. We don't typically get it from Lowe's, but Home Depot was out of what we use. And I think we're using a 1/2 inch trowel on this one. These are pretty big tiles. They're like 17 3/4 by 17 3/4. over on the right, my dad was trying to cut. You know, we had to take off about three quarters of an inch for this back wall. My dad was trying to cut it with that. He couldn't, so he ended up just having to use his wet saw. We have that set up outside. So as I was setting all of this, my dad was going outside and cutting the pieces I needed. I want to say sorry for seeing my butt crack all so much, but you know, it is what it is. So what we do is, if you've never done tile, there's a lot of different ways to do it. There are a lot of different ways people do it. We mix our thin set, and then we use our trowel, and I lay it down pretty thick and scrape it out real nice, get some nice grooves in it, and then I set my tile up against the tile that's already been down, and then I pull it back and just kind of vibrate it in. We're actually going to probably get a tile vibrator, but and then I put my spacers in, which on this one we used 1/4-inch spacers. We actually grouted this a couple days after we did it. We had a bunch of ice, so we didn't work. That's just not worth the trip, you know, risking having an accident or something. It's not worth it. So you know, I didn't get video of us grouting it. It only took about an hour. We used a really nice grout called I don't remember what the what color we used, but it was kind of like a dark gray, dark blue. I don't know, you know, the best way to explain it, but yeah, this was roughly, you know, 280 square foot, maybe about 300 square foot in that ballpark. It took me a total of you know, about 3.5 hours or 3 hours to set all of this tile. Luckily, you know, my father was there to cut it all for me. But you know, if I had to do that myself, oh my gosh, it probably would have taken about 5 hours to do it. So as you can see, I dump a bunch of thin set or mortar, whatever you want to call it there. But we had a pretty big crack in the floor, and it gave us a nice high spot there. You can see every time I pull up that piece of tile, that none of the thin set even set up underneath it. I couldn't believe how big of a hump there was in the floor there. But luckily we were able to build up that thin set quite a bit and make it pretty flush with that one back behind it and next to it, and the smaller piece next to that one. So you know, we were able to make it work. But a lot of times when you get those cracks in the floor like that, you'll get a lot of uneven places, and you start setting your tile. Well, of course, tile doesn't bend, and if it bends, it breaks. So it's not flexible. So you have to make sure that you put enough thin set underneath it that you're not going to have hollow spots where it's going to break. If somebody ever steps on it wrong, drops something on it, you know, it's not just going to crack or just break into a couple pieces, because you know that you just don't want to do a job like that, and you know, somebody breaks one and they look at that tile and realize, oh, that wasn't even set underneath it. And as you can see, I'm coming up on some tile here that I have already done. I did that probably about 3 or 4 hours prior, because we actually went to lunch and had to go pick up some material and stuff. So that's why I'm actually, you know, sitting on the tile that I did earlier. Typically I won't ever do that, but and then right here we're doing this because there's a door here, so we wanted to make sure that door
all right, so this one's done. We got the trim on. Still have to touch up the nail holes. Got them puttied, let them dry, and touch it up tomorrow. We caulked all the corners, all the seams, so we'll get all that touched up tomorrow. Customers are gonna come put all their plates on. We gotta get a blind made, get that put in tomorrow, but other than that, I mean, it's done. Got a door sweep installed on the bottom of that one. Got a new threshold on the bottom there. Just doing a little bit of cleaning up and we're done. So on to the next one.